How should students respond to the new PSSA text-dependent analysis? Presented by Nicole DeFrancis. Assessment anchors used, EO8, E1, and also EO8, E1.1. So what does TDA stand for? T stands for text, D stands for dependent, and A stands for analysis. Let's look at the directions that the PSSA ELA test provides when answering a text-dependent analysis. As you can see, they are a bit confusing, so what we are going to do is break down what text-dependent analysis actually means and the requirements to score the highest amount possible. You might be wondering, what will we have to do with the OER? Well, the past PSSA written response, the OER, has been replaced with the new text-dependent analysis, or the TDA. Also, when looking at how to respond to a TDA, both teachers and students need to understand that the prompt, or the TDA, will always have the three following words. Knowing these words and their meanings will help you to answer the question more effectively. The first word that every text-dependent analysis prompt will include is analysis. The word analysis means to break down a complex text and to explain it to prove comprehension. Analysis also means that when writing an analysis, we must carefully study the passage and the question and prompt. One has to know what it is that they are actually trying to answer. The next thing that every TDA will include is the word essay. When writing an essay, students need to understand the structure and organization of a 5-paragraph essay. The prompt will not ask directly for 5 paragraphs, but it is assumed that they know this already. If you look below, you will see the outline of a 5-paragraph essay. Feel free to look it over and make sure that you understand the structure. The last word that every TDA prompt will include is the word evidence. This means that before the students begin to read the passage, they should read the question and prompt so that they know what to search for while reading. We also need to encourage students to read with a highlighter and to search for quotes that will be used in their writing to support their response. Students also need to know the meaning or the difference between explicit and implicit examples. So now let's look at how to apply what we learned about the word TDA and the 3 words that are actually always going to be in the prompt to an actual writing prompt. This prompt is taken directly from a PSSA sampler packet. The question is, the plot of Joe's Reward is driven by specific events that take place. Write an essay analyzing how the passage draws on elements commonly found in myths. Use evidence from the passage to support your response. The first step is to conduct an analysis. So think, do you understand the prompt? Also, are you being asked a question or being given directions? And lastly, read the passage carefully, but be sure to have an objective. With this specific prompt, we are not asked for a summary. We are being given directions to explain how this story has characteristics of a myth. Be sure that students know this before they just begin to read Joe's Reward. The second step when tackling this TDA is to collect evidence. So students need to ask themselves, did you read the prompt first so that you knew what to look for while reading the passage? And did you highlight quotes from the passage to support your response? So thinking about the first question, students need to be looking for examples from the passage to prove that Joe's Reward has some characteristics in common with a myth. Things like a hero, things like a change in status where Joe moves from a zero to a hero and he earns a place in the community. And the last thing students should look for is a lesson that we can learn from our new and improved hero. Hopefully the students were able to highlight some of the quotes from the passage to support those three main ideas. The last thing to do is to begin the essay, which students need to understand must be 5 paragraphs. They should ask themselves, do you know how to write an introduction and conclusion? Do you know how to write a thesis statement? And do you know how to organize your essay? Thinking about the first bullet point with an intro and conclusion, students need to be sure to restate the prompt. They would also need to include a hook. A thesis statement will lay out a map of the essay. All 3 main ideas need to be included in this thesis statement. If students aren't sure how to organize their 5-paragraph essay, they should look back in this presentation and look at the outline. Before starting the essay, students should study a TDA rubric and see how to score a 4 or a 3. Students should also be aware that there are scores even lower than a 4 or a 3. They should study this part of the rubric as well to see how they could score a 2 or a 1. So let's try. Please answer the prompt from earlier in your notebook. Use the passage, Joe's Reward, to respond to the prompt. Use the directions on the next page to plan out and proofread your writing. The writer's checklist will be included in the PSSAs. Students and teachers should become familiar with the planning, focusing, and proofreading that we are being reminded to do when responding to the text-dependent analysis. Good luck! Can't wait to read some great TDAs.